Welcome all. Boone here from EWPRO. Getting straight into the weekly outlook. So starting with the DXY. On the daily, we got the 5 down. I'm looking at A, B, C. So we're looking for a downside here. We got correction in here. So we're looking for that flat before we get more upside. So we'll be starting to look for shorts. On the H4, we're looking at, we're still looking for that Z up. We're looking at W, X, Y, X2, and then a Z up. On the H1, it's still, this is sort of looking bullish here, right? So you will have to be careful. This may be the end of X here, and we get a contracting flat here for an A, B, C. There's no bullish divergence here, so I don't really want to look at it as a contracting flat at this stage. Ideally, we get a little bit more downside. Breaking this low, we get an A, B, C, and then, you know, if you get a buy set up, you can look for that buy. Moving on to the AU on the daily. So nothing's changed. We're looking at W, X, Y, X2, and then a Z down. On H4, nothing's changed since last week pretty much. This still can, last week we broke that trend line and we were looking for like the A, B, C up to this 100 pip. Looking at the H1 though, it's still looking rather corrective. We've already got like bearish divergence in here. Now that may change, but it really have to move up fast to get rid of this possible bearish divergence that we do see on the MACD here. So we may still get another one down here to finish off this B wave and then give us another one up. So if we go back to the H4 quickly, we still may get another one down in here for an internal A, B, C, or it may even be the flat in here for an A, B, C to finish off this B wave, and then we get another one up. So I'm not really convinced on the daily, on the H1, sorry, that because we're getting that bearish divergence. So just be a little bit careful. We may get that another one down. Looking at EU on the daily. So like I said last week, I should have changed the count because I was sort of looking at that A, B, and then a C up for a flat in here. And then you get that A, B, C. We still haven't got that turn. Really, you can only start to look for buys now for this wave here, this possible wave here for that flat. We're nearly down to that 50 pip. If you remember, you know, once we got up to this top here, I was looking for that 50 pip retracement, and we're just about there. So, you know, on the H4, there is still nothing. Like I said last week, we do have divergence between this low and this low. But that's about it on the H4. We had that, I think it was this one last week. Yeah, we had that possible bear hidden here. I think it was, yeah, it was this one, I think. So we had that possible bear hidden here. So we may get that bear hidden, another one down, giving us that bullish divergence. So now this is still looking rather corrective. So this still may give another one down. Ideally, after we get the divergence, we want that sharp move up, breaking this top here and then giving a flag or a correction to buy. Instead, it's giving us this in here. But I'm only looking for buys. We got that bullish divergence, and we're looking for that larger impulse up on the higher time frames. But you just have to be careful that this here, we may still get another one down here before it goes. I'm not really interested. Very risky to be shorting. I'm only really looking for the buys. GU on the daily. So I'm looking at that A, B, C before we get more upside, or because we hit that 100 fib on the weekly, this can really fall over and break this low, because we got that triangle in here. We've got this triangle in here. So on the weekly, we've got that A, B, C in here in the B wave. And this is a C up to the 100 fib. So this can really fall over. But yeah, it's too early to tell at this stage. At this stage, we're really looking for the buy, up to this 100 fib. And then another A, B, C. On the H4, really want to see, we're sort of starting to get a correction in here, looking for a little running flat in here and then more upside. If you go down to the H1 quickly, so I'm looking for that, looking for a little bit more downside in here in the internal C wave. And then if you get a little buy set up, then you can look for that C up. NU on the daily. So we're looking at that A, B, C in the B wave, and then we're looking for that C down, the 100 fibs down here. So there is a little bit more downside. We may still get a little bit more downside. Ideally, we do. It has completed its structure, breaking this low over here in the C wave. But ideally, I would really like to see this low over here broken, at least, and then start looking for the buy. Because we're nowhere near that 50 fib retrace of this whole move here. H4, nothing's changed. There's no bullish divergence. I'm looking at A, B, C. This is looking corrective in here for another one down. Ideally, we do get this one down here, and then we will get that that bullish divergence. And then, if you get any bullish setup on the lower time frame, then you can start to look for that C up. I'm only really looking for the buy. UY on the daily. So we've got that, looking for that A, B, C. It was very confusing because we had this in here. This took a long time to give us that C and break the top, or even break this top over here. It has broken it now, so we're getting a lot of bearish divergence. On the H4, looking for that C up. We got that C up. We're looking at A, B, C. There is no bearish divergence on the H4. Now we're starting to get bearish divergence with this extra move up here. So very risky if you start to buy. We were looking for that hidden divergence on the H1 that has started to play out. We've broken that top with the WXY. X2, we had that all hidden here. So we were looking for that to break the top, first target and second target. Yeah, really, if you're not in it, I'd be more inclined to start looking for the sell. So we'll be looking for whatever it does in here, wait for the trend line break, bear flag or correction, and then look for the short. The Swissy on the daily, this one's playing nicely. We got an A, B, C. We bounced off that 100 fib in the B wave on the H4. So I'm looking for downside. So on the H4, this was quite tricky as well because we got all this. We got a nice impulse and then we got a large correction. Ideally, it would have just given us a correction up here, going straight up to the 100 fib and then bounce off. This was quite choppy, right? But we do have bearish divergence here now. It's bounced clean off that 100 fib, like I said last week. We got the trend line break and we're getting a correction in here. So any sell setup you get, look for the sell. On the H1, this may still give another one up here. Because this one here didn't break that top. So unless it's a contracting flat in here, A, B, C, very difficult to trade contracting flats, but I'm only looking for a sell, for at least a C down. So if you do get a sell set up in here, you can give it a go. But just be mindful, you want to keep tight stops. Unless you take a smaller position and have your stop loss above here, in case it does go up there and take you out if you keep a tight stop, and then, because it'll probably fall over on you if it does give you another high. We already have that bearish divergence, so, I'd be more inclined to keep the shorter stop, and if it does break it, takes you out, we'll then try and wait for another setup to get in on the sell. Looking at the UCAD, this is quite choppy. Like I've been saying, I was sort of looking at a flat in here for that wave up, and I've had to change my count. So I'm looking at an A. Whatever's happening in here is a B, and then we get a C up, as a larger correction. We've bounced off that 100 fib on the weekly, bounced clean off of it. So, I sort of, whatever's happening in here, I think it's corrective before we get more upside. On the H4, we can sort of look at it like a complex correction. Like we got 1, 2, 3 in here, and then we get 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So a 3, 3, 5 complex correction. Sort of looking at WXY. This still may go down to that 161.8 and then give your second correction before you get that Z down to finish off that B wave. On the daily H1, there's really nothing. There's no, I don't even think we have here. So we don't even have bullish divergence. So, and I'd be more interested in waiting for the larger correction. It's safer, instead of trying to sell flags up here, down here, scalping. I'd be more inclined to wait until you get that larger correction and then look for that Z down and then look for the buy. GY on the daily. Nothing's changed. We're looking for that A, B, C. So we're still looking for a little bit more upside. Hopefully we get a little bit more upside on the H4. Really said last week to stay out. I was staying out of this. I did actually end up giving it a go on the H1, but so we're looking at that A, W, X, Y, X2. We're looking for that Z down. We had that bear hidden divergence, so we're looking for that Z down, giving us that bullish divergence. Then we were looking for that A, and we're just looking for a correction up here to up to that 100 fib. Instead, it gave us this really deep move down, which that's why I said it was very risky. Unless you get a nice setup to buy, just leave it alone. Well, on the H1, we did get a nice flag in here, and I did give this a go. I got in a little bit late, and it did take me out over here. When it come down over here, it took me out at break even. So I missed the trade basically, but yeah. So that's trading though. I didn't, because this was so deep. It's very risky because just looking for an A, B, C. I think that is, yeah, that's the wrong 100 fib there, but it'll be just about at the 100 fib now. So very risky, and we've got all this bearish divergence. I'll be more inclined to wait for a trend line break in here. I'll be more inclined to wait for a trend line break. We're starting to get divergence in here. It may, if it loses that divergence before it breaks the trend line, you probably get another one up. But whatever happens, I'm more interested in the sell. Wait for the trend line break, sell set up to short. Really only interested in the sell at this stage because of the higher time frame structure. EG on the daily. This has turned out confusing as well because we've got W, X, Y, X2, a Z down. Didn't quite get to that first target at the 123.6. And then we got, I'll just zoom in a bit. So instead of getting a nice impulse up and a correction or a flag in here, we got 3 up in here, like I've been saying. So yeah, we're looking for the sell in lower time frames. So as you can see, I've still got the arrow there. We're looking for that A, B. We're looking for that C up. Now we really want a larger correction in here, and then look for that sell. We got a lower low, so, or even there, we got a lower low. So wait for the correction, and then look for that sell. H1, we've got a cross up. So if you get little flags in here or whatever, you can scalp, but they're only going to be scalps because more than likely, you'll get some sort of a correction in here. So you could probably scalp. You get a flag, scalp. Then if you get another little flag, you could scalp that C up. But yeah, they're only scalps. I think we'll get more downside longer term. Looking at the gold. So we got an A, a B, and we're looking for that C up. Instead of giving, like most of them, we didn't get that flag up here to complete it. Instead, we got, all this in here. But I still am looking for more upside. We still need that C up. It's got nowhere near that 100 fib. Unless this is a contracting flat in here, and that's, the end of wave C, It is possible, but it's very difficult to trade it if it is that contracting flat, and you're never going to know. I'm sort of H4. I'm looking for that A, B, C. This is corrective though. Like I said last week, on that H1, we got this flat in here. Not a flat, sorry. We got this expanding triangle, A, B, C, D, E. And then it's broken the top, and we've got all this bearish divergence. So that's why I'm looking for bearish, looking for more downside to break that low, and then finishing off the H4B wave before we get more upside. So you could probably scalp the sell, because we do have all this bearish divergence here. So if you get, ideally it goes and breaks this low here, or even this low here, and then gives you a correction or a flag, something to sell, to look for that sell. Looking at WTI on the daily. So I've changed the count on this. I was looking at A, B, C, and we had all that bearish divergence. Had to filter all this out. Filtered out, we get a W, X, Y, X2, and looking at the first target 123.6 and the 161.8, before we get 50, at least a 50 fib retrace. That's not the correct 50 fib. I should take that off because this isn't over yet. On the H4, there's really nothing. We don't have any bearish divergence. It's nearly up to that 123.6. So, you really have to wait for, so we got a W, some sort of X, we're getting a Y, wait for an X2, and then you could look for the Z up before then you look for the sell. I'm more interested in the sells, unless I get this nice correction in here for the buy and a buy set up to buy it. I don't, very risky to be buying at a top. We've got all that bearish divergence on the daily already, this may end up, this divergence and this, more than likely we'll get divergence. Looking at Bitcoin on the daily. So this one here, like I've been saying, there is that possible bear hidden here. But now that we've crossed down and if that bear hidden was going to play out, it should have went from here and broken the low. Instead, it's given a correction and more upside. The H4. So we were looking for that buy up to that 123.6 in wave Z. It's bounced off that 123.6, and the second target is that 161, like I showed last week for the W, X, Y, X2, and then the Z up. H1, there is a chance to still get into a buy for a scalp, just on the H1, Z up. We're looking at W, X, Y. You need to wait for that X2 down to at least down to that 38.2 fib retracement to give you the risk reward. So you'd be looking for some sort of a correction in here, and then your buy set up to trade that Z up. You really want to wait for the bearish divergence now, though, I think. SPX on the daily. So eventually I'm looking for price action nearly got up to that 100 fib, that orange 100 fib there. And then I'm looking for at least a larger correction. H4. So nothing's really changed. Looking for the A, B, C up. It's nearly hit that 100 fib. And then so pretty much they're looking for that sell for the C down. On the H1, So you're getting a more than, well, it's turning into a correction here. So if you get a trend line break, little bullish flag, well, then you could buy, but be very careful because we're at that trend line, and it's getting close to that. It nearly got to that 100 fib, so you'll have to be very careful buying this. You know, you definitely want to be break even. Well, I'd be at break even at the break of that top, and even taking just if you're going to scalp the buy, just take half off there, and maybe second half off at the 123.6 or 161.8. Not really expecting it to get to that 161.8, but we are talking about the S&P, so it just keeps on going up. So you never know; it may get up to that 161.8 if you're lucky. AU 200. So we've got all this bearish divergence, very risky to be buying on the daily. H4. So now looking at the A, B, C in here, and possibly another A, B, C down. Pretty similar to S&P, but this one a little bit more choppier at this stage. So we got a trend line break in here. So if you get a correction or flag in here, you could look for that A, B, C. The DAX, I had to go with the United one because the other ones disappeared on us. But looking at the daily, so we're breaking this trend line with all this bearish divergence. So we're looking for at least a 50 fib retracement of this move here. So could probably draw that. So I really like to see at least a 50 fib retracement on this because we have all that bearish divergence. It's very choppy on the way down though. There's really, the only thing you can look at here on the H4 is like a possible A, B, C up in here. If you get a little sell set up after you get this C up, well, then you could look for more downside for, A, B, C. On the H1, you're getting a little bullish flag in here, for the A, B, C. This is your first target. You definitely want to be, I'd be taking half off at least here. And, I'd be targeting that 123.6 as your second target because more than likely it's going to be like a running flat. It may turn into expanding, but if it turns into expanding, it's pretty much going to be breaking the top. So I'd be, targeting these. If I zoom in a bit, you're getting a little correction here. It's ideal because you've got that bearish divergence here, and you're getting a bullish setup. You could scalp it to buy and then look for your sell setup. Looking at the FTSE on the daily, again, a lot of bearish divergence. You simply don't want to be buying it up this high. It's risky. We're looking for this trend line break here and then another one up. It did give us that another one up, and then it gave us that bearish divergence. So we're sort of looking for bear, but yeah, it's still on the larger picture. We're looking for this A, B, C. Now it hasn't got anywhere near the 100 fib because it needs to break that top. It's very choppy. We've got bearish divergence there already, so it's very risky to be buying. And you got a lower low as well, so I'd be staying out of it unless you get a nice setup. So that's about it this week. I hope you enjoyed the weekly outlook. If you did, share, like, subscribe if you haven't already, and enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you out there next week.